In a small, quiet village in Ireland called Bellewstown, locals still whisper about a man who pulled off the impossible. They remember a mastermind who executed a daylight robbery, walking away with hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's the most shocking part. He didn't use a gun. He didn't wear a mask. He didn't hack into a bank's mainframe. After the operation, he walked the streets freely. The police couldn't touch a hair on his head. Why? Because every single thing he did to secure this massive fortune was completely 100% legal. His name was Barney Curley, a mysterious, cunning, and ruthless gambler. He was so sharp that the biggest bookmakers would shut down their betting windows just hearing his name. Barney didn't just find the loopholes in the system. He weaponized them. This is the incredible true story from 1975. A legendary event now remembered as the Yellow Sam Betting Coup. To understand how Barney pulled off the greatest legal heist, you have to understand where he came from. Barney Curley was a man who, quite literally, did not even spare his own father. His father, Charlie Curley, was a man who trained racing greyhounds. Charlie loved to gamble, but he didn't rely on luck. He relied on deception. Right before a big race, Charlie would secretly feed his slowest dogs illegal performance-enhancing drugs, forcing them to run impossibly fast. He would bet all his money on his doped-up underdog, tricking the bookies. Barney knew all about his father's dark tricks. And one day, when Barney was just 15 years old, Charlie handed him a piece of meat. It was spiked with drugs, and Charlie told him to feed it to their chosen racing dog. But young Barney had a different plan. He deliberately threw the meat away. The next day, his father's chosen dog lost spectacularly. Charlie lost a massive amount of money. But one person in the crowd was smiling. Barney. Barney had secretly fed the drugged meat to an entirely different dog and placed his own bets on it. By betraying his own father, 15-year-old Barney made his very first gambling profit, 50 pounds. If a boy is willing to hustle his own father to start his gambling career, just imagine what he was planning for the world. But karma has a funny way of catching up. Charlie, Barney's father, continued his cheating ways. Because sports betting wasn't highly regulated back then, the rules were loose. In 1956, disaster struck. Charlie gave his usual dose of drugs to a slow dog and bet his entire life savings on it. But nature intervened. The drugs had an adverse reaction. The dog not only lost the race, but collapsed, tragically breaking its spine. Barney was 16 at the time. This single, devastating loss plunged his entire family into an ocean of debt. Barney was forced to drop out of school. He went to work doing grueling manual labor in a factory just to help pay off his father's colossal gambling debts. For 18 agonizing months, father and son worked day and night, handing every single penny over to the ruthless bookies. Barney saw the dark, unforgiving side of gambling up close. After paying off the debt, he tried his hand at legitimate businesses. He opened a betting shop. It failed. He bought a pub. It failed. He tried music management. Nothing worked. Desperate, he even turned to smuggling razor blades across the border until a sudden shootout left him terrified for his life. Ultimately, his heart kept pulling him back to the only world he truly understood, horse racing and gambling. He decided to go pro. By 1975, Barney had made a name for himself in the gambling underworld. Sometimes his tricks worked and he lived like a king. Other times he drowned in debt. The bookies grew to fear him. If they even saw Barney at a racetrack, they would immediately slash the payout rates, or refuse to let him play altogether. Barney found himself 12,000 pounds in debt, a massive sum. He was backed into a corner and he needed a miracle. And right there, a wickedly genius idea was born. Barney contacted an old friend and asked for a very specific favor. He needed a horse with an absolutely terrible racing record. They found one and named him Yellow Sam, which ironically was the nickname of Barney's father. Yellow Sam's record was laughably bad. In his last 9 races, he had finished 8th place or worse. But this was all part of Barney's incredibly cunning strategy. You see, Barney deliberately entered Yellow Sam into races on soft, muddy tracks. Knowing full well the horse hated the mud, he purposely made the horse lose. Why? to crash Yellow Sam's official rating. By making the horse look like an absolute failure, Yellow Sam qualified for a handicap race, where slower horses are given an advantage. But here was Barney's secret. Yellow Sam wasn't a slow horse. On firm, dry ground, Yellow Sam was incredibly fast. Barney had created the ultimate sleeper agent. Barney chose his battlefield carefully, the Bluestown racecourse. On June 26, 1975, the track was notorious for having firm, dry ground perfect for Yellow Sam. But choosing Bluestown wasn't just about the dirt, it was about technology. In 1975, this remote racetrack had exactly one public telephone booth. Back in the day, off-track betting shops stayed connected with the main racecourse via telephone. If a massive amount of money suddenly poured in for a specific horse, the off-track bookies would call the track, and the track officials would immediately lower the payout rate for that horse. The golden rule was, once the race starts, rates are locked. Barney realized something brilliant. If he could block that single phone line at the track right before the race started, the bookies across the country wouldn't be able to communicate. They wouldn't be able to lower Yellow Sam's payout rate. The odds would stay locked at a massive 20-1, meaning for every $1 bet, you win $20. But Barney couldn't just walk in and place a massive bet himself. The bookies would spot him instantly. He needed an army. He selected 300 trusted associates scattered all across Ireland. He handed them sealed envelopes containing cash ranging from 50 to 300 pounds each. Barney had gathered 15,000 pounds. It was his entire life savings. Everything he had ever owned was in those envelopes. If this failed, he wouldn't just be broke. He would be thrown in prison for his debts. Race day arrived. Across the country, off-track betting began. Because of his terrible fake record, Yellow Sam's odds were 20 to -1. Exactly 25 minutes before the race, a man named Benny, one of Barney's most trusted friends, walked up to the public phone booth. He picked up the receiver, dialed a fake number, and suddenly began weeping uncontrollably. Benny wailed loudly into the phone. The bookies waiting in line grew impatient, but Benny sobbed, screaming that his poor aunt was on her deathbed. The crowd felt sorry for him, but the bookies were furious. Barney had told Benny, if anyone tries to take the phone, smash it. For 25 agonizing minutes, Benny cried over his imaginary dying aunt. Back across Ireland, Barney's 300 men walked up to betting counters and dumped their cash on Yellow Sam. Off-track bookies panicked at the sudden flood of money. They desperately tried to call the track to lower the odds. But all they heard was a busy signal. The phone line was occupied. The starting bell rang. The race had begun. The odds were officially locked at 20 to -1. Benny instantly hung up the phone, stopped crying, and vanished into the crowd. Barney himself was hiding in a thick patch of thorny bush near the track, watching through binoculars. When the race started, Yellow Sam running on his favorite dry, hard dirt unleashed unbelievable speed. Even the crowd favorite horses couldn't keep up. Yellow Sam cleared all 13 hurdles with ease and crossed the finish line a massive 2.5 lengths ahead of the competition. When the bookies finally realized what had happened, absolute chaos erupted. They hunted down the man from the phone booth, but Benny simply smiled and said, "It's a miracle my aunt is suddenly feeling much better." He denied knowing Barney Curley. It was time for the bookies to pay up. Barney's total investment of 15,000 pounds was multiplied by 20. He won a staggering 300,000 pounds, equivalent to around $3.5 million today. The furious bookies, in a petty act of revenge, paid him entirely in single £1 notes. It took 108 massive bags to carry all the cash away. This breathtaking coup made headlines across Ireland and the UK. Barney Curley became an overnight legend. And the most brilliant part? He hadn't broken a single law. He simply outsmarted the system. Because of him, bookies had to rewrite the rulebooks, mandating a 30-minute window for large bets. Barney continued to execute brilliant gambling strategies well into his 70s. On May 23, 2021, at the age of 81, he passed away. The horse racing world paid tribute to him, not just as a genius mastermind, but as the Robin Hood of racing. Because while he possessed the unparalleled skill to empty the pockets of the system, he also had the heart to secretly donate millions to charities. He was the man who pulled off the ultimate legal robbery and left behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. If you enjoyed this incredible true story, make sure to hit that like button, share this video, and drop a comment down below on what you think of Barney's genius plan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.